how did you get into being a mod then? How did you start off?
So about a year and a half ago, I got involved in a couple smaller subreddits that I was fairly active in and enjoyed. They were Soylent and and Plex. In Soylent, it's just about a kind of a food replacement something, and in Plex, it's just about a home theater streaming solution. So, for involved, started helping out, moderating the community, just wanted to see it grow, help those get better, and ended up making a jump to politics, which is a significantly bigger subreddit, a little bit more work required. And from there, got into a couple more default subreddits, and essentially starting a small subreddit, end up in a bigger subreddit if that's what you want to do.
Do you think Redditors have a mistrustful of mods, do you think, in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
There's a famous comic where it's this little moderator running around. I'll see if I can find it. I'll send you the link here in a second. But it's a little moderator running around doing his best to fix things, keeping things clean, and all the users are, you got that clean, and then the users still hate the moderators. And that's just the way it is. I think that's the way it is. I don't want to say authority because I think it's really faux authority. It's not a big deal. Moderators are more janitors than anything else. They're not the authority figure. They're not really, they set the rules, but then they're just there to enforce the rules. They're just sweeping up the crap. And 95% of the job is sweeping up the crap, including the users that, this user is spewing crap. They just need to be banned. And so I think janitors is a much more apt description of the whole situation. But yes, there is distrust. They think we're all paid off by big, in science, they're all paid off by big, some chemical company, Dow. In politics, we're all paid off by CTR, correct the record. In sports, we're paid off by whatever the American sport that everyone's pushing and not one of the other foreign sports that we all don't like. And it's always something.
Well, what do you think the political makeup is of the Our Politics mod?
Again, this is still public information, so I'm not revealing anything. But out of, I think we have 20 full mods and like 5 half mods. Out of the 26 mods, I think there's 3 or 4 of us. No. Yeah, about 3 of us that are conservative leaning. So, yes, we're the minority. And, again, that just goes back to it's the 3 out of 26 is probably roughly the political leaning of Reddit as a whole.
So do you think the fact that the mods, at least in the politics sub, are liberal leaning, and the fact that the site is liberal leaning and the comments are mostly liberal leaning, do you think that's because of the mods and the way they direct, the way they do their job, or is it just because Reddit attracts liberal people?
No, I'll vouch for those guys. They're very bias is really checked to the door. We have a very long half mod status to make sure that people are checking their bias at the door. If they're making some questionable calls, we won't ever promote them to full mod, and they'll very quickly no longer be a moderator at all. And that's something we're keeping an eye out for. And everything that a moderator does is visible in a public log. And people can go back through, and things are constantly being discussed. And if there's ever any removals that are questionable, they'll end up on a subreddit called Undelete. And we'll all see them if they end up on Undelete. And we'll go, okay, we can go click on the link and see who removed it, what they removed it for. And from there, we can check those kind of things. And with, we put in an hour, 2 hours every day, we can start getting a sense of, 25 people. You can see if someone's doing things that are questionable. And there really isn't. There's a lot of discussions about tricky things, such as the one from 2 nights ago. The biggest discussion we had was about, I forget who it was, Meryl Streep, I think, talking about Trump in her acceptance speech. And there was a lot of back and forth of, does this fall in our on-topic statement about current U.S. politics and celebrity endorsements, and different people, they had certain views about a celebrity endorsement or a celebrity talking about politics. Does that fit enough in our on topic? And there was a lot of back and forth. And we ended up voting on it and decided that, yes, that is okay. We think that qualifies as our on topic statement, as she was talking about current U.S. politics, which is 90% of our rulings are, do they fit that statement, current U.S. politics? And that's really what we're basing everything on. And we have what's called an active consensus vote, an AC vote. And from there, we can determine quick policy, or we can vote in the back room on policies. But as for political influence and partisan influence of the moderator team, no, it's frustratingly bureaucratic. it's to the T of the rules and the law and how we enforce ourselves. And if there is someone that's acting in a partisan manner, they will very quickly no longer be on the team.
So there's a voting process in the background. Then that's how you decide what does and doesn't go up on the sub.
For those special cases, yeah.
Okay. And do you think a lot of the time that's where the issue comes with Redditors, because they think you're going in and just slashing stuff willy-nilly without, not realizing that there's a big sort of decision-making process behind it?
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of the users don't realize. They think every moderator operates independently and they're out enforcing whatever their own bias or vendetta or whatever they've got going on is. But realistically, whenever you're moderating really any community at this point, there is a back channel Slack. There's a backroom Slack where things are just constantly being discussed. Hey, this article was been up there for a bit. I think it's off topic. You all think? And there's a quick voting process to feel out the community or feel out the moderator team of what they think about it. As for what the users see, they don't see any of that. And they just see the one guy that goes in there and removes that post, and that's all they see. So what? I'll go on like a busy streak, and our front page hasn't been moderated in a couple hours, and it's got a lot of stuff that needs to be looked at. And I'll go through, and inevitably, a lot of Trump bashing articles will be on there, or even back whenever Hillary was still around, and a Hillary bashing article will be somewhere near the bottom. And if you remove enough topics of like a certain caliber, a user is going to be, and then your next interaction going, well, I just looked in your user history and you just removed a bunch of this stuff and all of it's conservative, all of it. I mean, I've had people call me liberal because of things I removed. I'm like, that's not how it works. At this point, I honestly don't even see what the title means anymore. I'm just looking, is the title the same? Is the date accurate? Is this on topic? All right, cool, approve.
What kind of problems have you had as a moderator? I imagine the fact that we're doing this anonymously.
Yes.
Yeah, I assume that means you've had issues with Redditors or internet nut jobs. Tell me what kind of stuff you've had.
There are, I forget what even happened. It was back in September, but we did something. I don't even remember what it was anymore, but we were catching death threats every morning. I get a fun death threat every maybe week at this point, and it's kind of regular. You send it off to the admins, and they go, smack someone around, and that's about the end of it. But we did something in September, and it caught a lot of attention. I don't even remember what it was at this point. You can probably go search it, see what's on a drama subreddit. But and yeah, we were catching 2 or 3 death threats every morning, and it's serious stuff. We had, and again, this is still public information. I keep saying that just because it is a big deal for us to represent politics. But one of our moderators had his truck was vandalized. Someone found out where he lived, didn't like a decision he made, and went and vandalized his truck. And I don't want to reveal what subreddit it was from, but this mod was a leaning of their subreddit, and they still went and vandalized his truck thinking he wasn't on their political side. And so it was a bad vandalism standpoint of it. You didn't even get it right. And still it was vandalism. They went and bashed his truck, left a note that was very clearly from their subreddit. And it's kind of scary. And my wife isn't a big fan of me being in hostile communities and very much wants my identity to remain private. And she kind of just keep a low key on everything.
Why'd you do it then?
That is a fun question. When I first joined up, I didn't imagine it would be nearly as intense as this. And very often I think, do I want to leave some of these communities? In sports, there isn't a great working relationship with some of the foreign sports communities. And it's gotten violent at certain points. They've doxed and attacked and death threats to a lot of our moderators. Again, yeah, something that you don't think matters just a ton, but foreign sports communities don't like the sports subreddit. Esports communities don't like the sports subreddit because they think an esport is a sport. And again, that's a debate you can have. But, just as a blanket rule, we don't allow esports in the sports subreddit. And we don't allow brigading and, just rule enforcement of the foreign sports subreddits. And they'll be upset with those in rules and then, again, attack moderators. But as for why I do it, because at the end of the day, I'm still hiding behind a username. I mean, I call it hiding. It's an accurate term. But my username is essentially, it's a front for me. It keeps me disassociated, and it's a break. And the death threats don't bother me because they don't know who I am. They can't get to me. Whereas, the moderator that got his truck vandalized, he had posted a picture of his truck. I think he's a moderator of the place he lives, so it's very readily accessible from the sidebar. And from there, that kind of stuff can essentially, someone can track you down and go, ooh, I recognize that truck as the guy that removed that one thing that I didn't like. And you can make that jump a lot easier.
Why do people get so angry to the point that they're going to track someone down in person and try and dock someone? Why would they do that?
That is an outstanding question, because some people take this very seriously, and they think that, if their foreign sport, I don't want to name any names here, if their foreign sport doesn't make it to the top of the sports subreddit, that is the end of the world, and that now that this has not reached the tens of thousands of people it would reach if it was at the top of sports, I am worse for it, and they have wronged me. Or if it doesn't make it to the top of politics, that I am being discriminated against and my freedom of speech has been removed. And they take it as a personal attack. Whereas 9.9 times out of 10, it's just enforcing some real silly rule that's listed on the sidebar or in the Wikipedia of the subreddit. And it's not a personal attack. It's just some guy sitting at his desk going, yeah, that doesn't meet our rules, remove. And it's a janitor. You're cleaning up your community so it looks good.
So we've had people get in contact with us, and they said, can you ask the mod some of these questions? And one of them was about the Century Club. Yeah. So everyone's like, what the hell is that, and what goes on in the Century Club? We've had lots of accusations, which I'll put to you in a second, but I want to just tell me what you know of the Century Club.
Century Club, it's really just it's a goof off subreddit. It's one of the goofiest subreddits I've ever seen. There is no purpose there. Everyone just kind of hangs out and chats. It's like an episode of Cheers. Everyone's going around. You think the episode kind of has a point. They're talking about something, and then it's over, and we're on to the next thing. There's really not a lot of point to it. If you spend too much time on Reddit and posted enough or commented enough to get enough karma, they let you in. I was curious about it myself, so I went and I found some links and posted them on there and got into Century Club, and it's cool, it's fine, a lot of good people, but nothing terribly super secret about it.
People say it's a front for gathering mod mail and upping your karma and stuff like that. And if you're not doing your mod duties, it's where you sort of up that there. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah. No, there actually isn't just a ton of voting back there. I expected to get back there, and it was just, if you left a comment, all 5,000 subscribers are going to be upvoting you, and it's going to be crazy. But no, it's a pretty low-key community. No one's really upvoting things. The biggest thing is that you start to learn some of the regulars' names, and you'll recognize them out in the wild, if you want to call it that. But so there's a story where one of the guys made best of for a story he wrote, and I recognized his username and go, oh, yeah, a good contributor. This isn't uncommon for him. And I went and read it, probably upvoted it, and moved on. But as far as upvoting, sure, there's probably, just because you know their names, you're more likely to upvote them. But again, karma is this big thing that everyone makes this big deal about. It doesn't matter. There's just nothing to it. It's something that moderators check just to make sure you're not going crazy. And then beyond that, it's fun.
There has never been a more important time to support independent media and investigative journalism. So if you like the work we do, then subscribe to our channel, send us tips, and most importantly, if you can, pledge to our Patreon and help keep us going and keep us uncovering these stories. Cheers.